2024 is off to a not so great start. I don't know if I jinxed this year by saying that I was really hoping 2024 would be the year that we like chill out and just stay home the whole year, or if maybe just like Januaries in general are now cursed for our little family. I'm gonna need another cup of coffee before we get into this. I gotta move the pillow so the babies can come over here. Hey, girl, you wanna come over here? Yeah. Chunky boy is here. You make everything better. Okay, let's get settled. So, I don't even know really where to start this, but unfortunately, like right after I filmed the last vlog, the Getting the Year Started Off Right vlog, two really big things happened. One regarding our living situation, our apartment, and the other one regarding my job, my career. So let's start with the living situation. So we live in a townhouse that is split into 4 separate apartments. There's 2 on the top floor, 2 on the bottom floor. Back in like November, we're on the 2nd floor. So our direct next door neighbor on the 2nd floor and also our downstairs neighbor, they both moved out. We loved those neighbors. They were very nice. They were great neighbors. One moved out because unfortunately they were a couple and the husband passed away and the wife couldn't live on her own. And the downstairs neighbor, I think he was also, there's a lot of people who retired to this community. So I think he was also just getting too old and really couldn't live on his own anymore. So it was like the 2nd week of February, I believe. We had new downstairs neighbors move in. And as soon as they moved in, they started chain smoking inside the apartment. And like I said, this is one townhouse with 4 apartments. So the downstairs, they're actually connected directly to our radiators. So we have radiators throughout the apartment, and our radiators are connected to their apartment radiators, and smoke just started wafting into our apartment. I was immediately like sick. I could barely eat anything. I was nauseous all the time. I was getting headaches. I got migraines. It was immediately unbearable. And my first thought was, well, there's no way they could be smoking inside. But then we could smell it. We can tell when they were smoking. And we looked outside. None of the windows are open. They never opened the door. So after a couple of days to confirm like what was happening is what we thought was happening, I contacted the leasing office because I was like, sure, like, because I could have sworn like in our lease, I thought there was something about no smoking inside. But also there's a part of me that's like, it's 2024. Is it not like, I mean, it seems like it's almost common sense that smoking should not be allowed inside buildings, right? Because like my husband smokes, my dad smokes, they smoke outside, they come inside, they wash their hands, and it's fine, right? But smoking inside an apartment or a house is just so disgusting to me and so outlandish to me that I didn't even think like it was really a thing anymore. And I was very naive about that. So I contacted the leasing office. I gave them a call, and I kind of like the way I phrased it was, I checked our lease and it wasn't like very clear about this, but are people allowed to smoke inside? And I left a message. I called back because I called over the weekend. It was getting really bad. So I called them and I spoke to one of the people at the office, and she basically said, yeah, they have every right to smoke inside, but the loophole in the lease that allows this means that technically, yes, they can smoke inside, but it cannot affect any of your neighbors. Right. So to me, it sounds like that loophole was put in there specifically for people that like smoke weed, which I'm totally fine with. Honestly, weed doesn't make me sick. It doesn't, I actually kind of like the smell of weed. But this was not weed. This is someone chain smoking like Black and Mild. Like, it's disgusting is what it is. But I was shocked. They said, yeah, they're totally allowed to smoke, but it's not allowed to affect you. And I was like, well, I work from home. the smoke is constant, I've been sick ever since they moved in. But they said, oh, no, they have rights to, they're allowed to, all we can do is ask them to vent the apartment. So the leasing office said all they could do was ask them to open the windows, which shocked me. Like legitimately, I thought when I called they were going to say, oh no, they're not allowed to smoke inside, they have to smoke outside. But no, it's apparently totally allowed. So that was a bit of a nasty shock. And honestly, like throughout the phone conversation, I was doing my best to be like polite but firm. And she got an attitude with me saying like, no, they have rights, they're allowed to do that, we just have to let them know that they have to open the windows or something. And I tried to say, like, you know, I work from home, it's constant, I have been sick, and just asking like, what are the options here? And she was getting like snippy with me, which made me feel terrible. Like, not only did a chain smoker move in downstairs, it seems like they're always home. And now when I complain about the smoke making me sick, they're getting an attitude with me. So after that phone call, I decided to start documenting everything. I have a Google Doc with dates and everything. I emailed them to get everything in writing, so I do have it proof in writing that they allow this. And in the meantime, my husband and I started buying some materials to help with the smell, because thank God this happened in the winter, so at the very least I could open the windows and the front door and it aired out and it helped a little bit. But this was right after we had a big snowstorm and it was like freezing outside, so actually I was like in hoodies and sweatshirts and sweatpants all the time because it was just so cold. But at least if it was cold I could breathe, because if I closed everything it would just smoke everywhere. So I'm trying to explain this in the way that I experienced it as well. So throughout up until this point we had only seen one man and maybe like a girlfriend and a dog move in. We hadn't seen anybody else, and I didn't know if he worked from home. We were trying to figure out why, because the smoke was constant, and it wasn't just like, you know, they smoke inside, they leave for the day. It was like someone is clearly in the apartment smoking the whole day, like every 30 minutes. So we were trying to figure out like, okay, so how do we approach this? We don't want to like be antagonistic right off the bat because they're our neighbors. We don't want to piss off our neighbors. We don't know what they're going to do, right? They're smoking inside. My thought is like, they're kind of irrational enough to smoke inside. What are they going to do? But after the smoke got really bad. But thankfully we were able to get some things to help mitigate. So we have like little mini ozone machines in every single area of the apartment. We have an industrial grade ozone machine right by the front stairs because the stairwell is where it's the worst. And I think it's because there are some cracks in the stairs that lead directly down, and of course the smoke rises, so the smoke is coming up right over there. So we've like stuffed towels in there to kind of stop that, and we've got the ozone machine, so that's been helping a ton. We have an ionizer that thankfully my in-laws had in their basement they weren't using, so we have an air ionizer. I've bought a ton of Lysol, because the only thing that seems to help with the radiators, at least, is just spraying them down with Lysol once or twice a day. I've got a bunch of air sprays and incense. So I guess the good news here is that, you know, I used to love incense, but at my previous house and here, at my previous house, I wasn't allowed to have incense. And here, I assumed, reading the lease, that, you know, smoking inside wasn't allowed. But now I get to have incense again, so that's nice. So I will say that the incense in the stairwell helps a ton, and it does perfume the apartment. So I am happy, trying to find a little silver lining here, that I get to enjoy incense again. So anyway, so we've spent a lot of money getting all these ozone machines and doing what we can to make it manageable. Because for the first, week, I was just so sick, I wasn't eating anything, I could barely focus on work. It was miserable. I lost, all joy for all of my hobbies. It was like I was put into a major depressive episode. I didn't think I was going to tear up. I'm sorry. But I was put into a major depressive episode that, I wasn't reading, I wasn't enjoying anything, because I felt like my safe space, our home, had been invaded through no fault of our own. And just to not have a safe space you can kind of escape to as an introvert, as someone who is a homebody, it was one of the worst experiences. But thankfully, all of that stuff together, the ozone machines, the Lysol, makes it so it's manageable. I'm not sick anymore, I have started tracking my migraines more closely this year. A, because I wanted to get a better handle of how often I'm getting migraines, but B, I got like one of my terrible migraines right after they moved in. It was like a 3-day migraine. So I need to start keeping track of that a little bit more. But yeah, so all the things that we've bought, everything that we've put in place helps for now. I'm just worried if it's going to get any worse, because smoke rises, and last summer was like the hottest summer we've had here. And I know the radiators won't be on, so I don't know if the radiators are connected and it's just the heat, or if the radiators are making it worse because it's like actively pumping hot air into the apartment. So I don't know if this summer, if it's going to get worse or if it's going to get better. Part of me is hoping it's going to get better, because we finally met the neighbor after a couple of weeks. My husband did. He went outside to smoke and the guy was out there smoking. And so we were like, oh, maybe he's not smoking inside anymore. Maybe he'll go outside and it won't be as bad. But here's the rub. The guy is apparently, he's actually really nice and reasonable. He works a lot, so he's almost never home. Here's the thing. He doesn't live alone. He lives with his 90-year-old grandmother, and I'm pretty sure she's bedbound, and she's the one chain smoking downstairs. I know. What are you gonna do with a 90-year-old chain smoker? I don't know. But he said she's only smoking inside because it's so cold, and obviously she's 90. She's probably not that mobile, and if she's home alone, I don't know. Part of me is worried about the fire risk. Part of me is worried, just in general for her, but there's not much we can do. So that being said, the guy said he used to smoke inside because the bathroom was also the other worst part. He said he smoked in the bathroom, but he didn't like it, so he's smoking outside now. So that's good. At least it's not going to get any worse that way. But the grandmother is still in there smoking. So at first, when this was bad and I was sick, I was panicking. I was like, we have to break the lease. We have to move. We have to move to a new unit. I was just thinking, like, I'm here all the time. They're smoking down there all the time, and this is my life now. I'm not going to be able to live like this. But we were looking into our options. Unfortunately, we had just renewed our lease. Our lease renewed January 1st. So obviously, if we had known they were going to move in 2 weeks later, we would not have renewed our lease. But we just renewed the lease. So we're kind of stuck here unless we want to break the lease. To break the lease would cost almost $5,000 because we live in North Jersey and this is expensive. And then we'd have to also do like safety deposit, first month's rent on a new place. So while we technically have the money for it, it would take almost our entire emergency fund. So it's not something to do lightly, though that was kind of my first reaction, was like, oh my God, I'm sick all the time. I'm miserable. I can't stand this. We've got to go. But it's not the smart move to make, especially if we can make this livable in the immediate term. So we spoke to the office about options, and shockingly, they said we could move to another unit in the same, it's like a big apartment complex with a couple of acres, a bunch of townhouses. And they said we could move to a new unit, but we would have to pay $500 as a transfer fee, and they would bump our rent up to market rent. I would say right now we're paying a little over $2,000 for rent. I know, it's North Jersey, this is expensive. And if we were to move, they would bump us up to around $2,300, which does not include our garage or the pet rent. So it'd be closer to $2,400. So that being said, I absolutely did not want to move to a different unit for that much money. This place, it's a decent apartment. It's absolutely not worth $2,400 a month. It is not. It is just ridiculously not. For $2,400, I can go downtown to a beautiful brand new high-rise apartment and get a 1 or 2 bedroom for that much money. So we're kind of stuck here just until we figure out how we want to proceed. We are absolutely not renewing this lease next year, but that's January. So like the earliest we would go to not break our lease would probably be November, December, just so that we wouldn't have to pay to break the lease, right? That's how it stands currently. We've got all of the cleaning supplies. It's now, thankfully, the smoke is now more of a nuisance and less of an actual like debilitating condition. So that's how it is. I am now cleaning a bit more. I'm spraying lots of Lysol. Thank God for Lysol. Lysol works amazing on smoke, surprisingly. And I mean, and just overall, I'm just shocked that this is a problem that I have. I'd never in a million years would have imagined that this is a problem I would have had to deal with. But unfortunately, that is a risk of apartment living. So, for anyone who's watching, warning, read your lease and ask if smoking's allowed inside. That's the very first question I started asking when I've been calling around to other apartment buildings to begin our apartment search. So as far as silver linings go, like I said about incense, I love incense. Thankfully, my husband's store, his family owns a grocery store, they stock incense there, so I can get as much incense as I want for free. So he's been bringing home some incense, I've been enjoying burning it, and that's nice to have now as a little treat, and it really does help cover the smoke smell in the stairway. And I've noticed incense doesn't really trigger my migraines, whereas certain candles do. So that's been nice to have. The other silver lining is that I know it's probably not going to be immediate or within the next, couple months, but ever since I was like a teenager, my dream has been to live in a nice high-rise apartment building, to have the amenities, to not have to do anything. Because honestly, if I wasn't married and Alvin didn't want a house, I would not be even considering buying a house, because I'm not a house person. I'm a city person. I want the condo. I want the nice apartment. So I'm thinking, like, it may be in a roundabout way, we've outgrown this apartment, we've outgrown this area, and it's time for us to move on. It sucks that it happened like this, but I can only think that it can only get better from here, right? So I'm excited to consider moving. I don't want to move twice in 1 year. That's the other thing about like moving units, because we'd have to do all that work transferring everything into the new address to move again in 6 months. I don't know. So as long as the smoke doesn't get like horrific during the summer, I think we're gonna just wait the rest of the lease out and then move this November, December. So that was the first thing that happened in January. Legitimately, I think the week happened. Monday was a holiday. I went out shopping with my grandmother. Tuesday, they moved in. Wednesday and Thursday was when the work thing happened. So, unfortunately, the company I work for did a large restructuring, and a lot of really great people were laid off, including some of my closest colleagues. Our team was really badly affected, and it was really hard to handle, because we've done a lot of work over the last year to kind of prep for this year. Like, we had finally been able to hire like a new assistant, and we had worked so hard to set up some like documentation and processes to make this year run so much more smoothly, only to at the very beginning of the year have this restructuring happen, and for like my closest colleague to be laid off. It was very rough. So many people were affected, so many great people that have been with the company for so long, and it's tough. It's so tough. It's tough for the people that get laid off, obviously, and it's tough for the people that are left trying to figure out how things are gonna keep running with so many less people. So I've been crying a lot. I actually cried with one of my newest coworkers on the phone, because he had dealt with, he's new to the company. And like a year before he was hired, he was laid off from a previous company. So he had gone through it. And so he was very nice to me. I really appreciate it, because he's now my new closest colleague. So having both the smoke issue and the work issue happen at the very same time during the same week was so overwhelming. It was one of the worst periods I've had. And I don't want to sound spoiled, I've gone through like actual, terrible things in my life, and I don't want to come across as like sounding spoiled or anything, but it was a very tough time, a very tough few weeks. So I feel like now, after a few weeks, after we've gotten like the smoke kind of situation mostly under control, and now that work is kind of calming down, I feel like I'm finally able to process everything that happened and start kind of digging myself out of this depressive episode. So as far as work goes, my position is changing drastically. It's so crazy, because like I said, we finally hired an assistant. So I started out as an assistant, And I've been promoted like 3 or 4 times, but we never backfilled the position. So I was just getting more and more work, but we never had like a new assistant to kind of start taking on some of my old stuff. So that assistant started last week. And so I've been training and onboarding her to hopefully take stuff off of my plate. But just like in the immediate term, it was like reorg happened, and I got so much more added onto my work plate, and I wasn't able to get rid of any of it. And I forgot to mention, with this reorg and with the people that got laid off, I have accidentally become the most experienced person on my team. So that's kind of crazy. My manager was actually like terrified I would leave. Because quite a few people like put in their resignations after this happened. And to be frank, I am really hoping for a promotion, because my role is totally different. And I had to like be frank with my manager and say we need to figure out either like a large raise or a promotion, because what I have to do now is way different than what my title and what my pay rate is. So she said she's going to do the best as she can, and that all promotions, raises have to be done in March. So that's part of what Alvin and I are kind of waiting on. We're going to see what that looks like in March, and depending on what my yearly bonus and what my raise might be. Because if you were around on my old channel, I think is where the vlog went up, or I forgot, I'll find the video and I'll throw it up. I worked really hard like a year or two ago for a raise and a promotion, and it took 6 months to go through, and at the end of the day it was only $100 more per paycheck, and it was incredibly demoralizing. And so I told my manager, like, I hope it doesn't happen like that again, because if it's only $100 more, I won't stay that long. And I did see panic, because I think that's all they were going to do. So I'm glad I was upfront with her. I'm glad we had that discussion, and I'm hoping we can figure something out. Because if they expect me to do all of the extra work that I'm doing with not a title change or a pay raise, it's not going to work out. So that's where we currently stand. I feel like I need to take some time to actually like do some self-care and do things that just make me happy for the sake of making me happy, now more than ever. Because I feel like my response to stress has just been to do more work, push off the feeling part by just being more productive and doing more. And that's not gonna work here. I need to like actually like chill and take a step back. So like last weekend, I spent Sunday like just in bed the whole day, just watched YouTube and relaxed. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, I also got sick. That's the reason I was also in bed all day, because in the middle of all of this, Alvin got sick, he caught a cold, and then I got that cold. So we were dealing with all of this. The smoke, I was sick, the work changes. I felt like I was getting it from like all directions. It was like work was being so crazy. I was physically and mentally not doing great. And then we had the smoke from the downstairs neighbors. And I've never been so overwhelmed, probably ever. Like usually I'm pretty good at like time management and dealing with like stressors. Like I said, my response is to be productive. So I tend to work through these kind of well. But this time, A, I was just caught so off guard. And B, my stress response was making me more ill physically. So, the good news is that I was working with my doctor, because I just recently got medicated for my anxiety disorder that I have. And we were working on slowly increasing the dosage to 30 milligrams from 20 milligrams. And I wasn't supposed to bump up the dosage until like next month. But I was like, hey, I'm gonna need that higher dosage now. So I was able to do that. So now I'm on the 30 milligrams of my anxiety medication, and I do think that's been helping too. So yeah, that being said, this is going on the vlog channel, but it's also, I'm gonna cross post it to my main channel as an update that I'm not gonna be as punctual for a bit. Thankfully I had like a few things like pre-filmed, so like up until like today, because I'm filming this the day this is going up until today, I've kind of just had videos ready to go and edited and ready to post. But like I said, with the depressive episode, I wasn't finding joy in cooking, I wasn't finding joy in reading, I also wasn't finding joy in makeup. So I'm hoping to get back into that this week, because I miss it. I miss sitting down and getting to enjoy the process and not just sitting there smelling smoke and just feeling miserable. So yeah, so the goal for today is to just do things that make me happy. So I washed the windows because I spend all day in my apartment and I like looking out my window. So I've washed half the windows. I want to wash the other half. I want to wash my curtains because I can't remember the last time I washed my curtains. And I think that will help with the smell, having some nice smelling curtains all around the apartment. I want to do some baking. I want to bake some banana bread. I want to maybe bake a loaf of rustic bread. I have a new Dutch oven that I was given for Christmas that I haven't been able to use yet, so I want to do that. And I want to spend some time in bed like this. I want to watch some YouTube. I want to scroll on Reddit and just actually give my body the rest that it needs. So I'm going to try my best there. So thank you guys for watching and for understanding. We're going to get through this. It's just gonna suck for a while, but then it'll get better. So let's start off. Let's light some incense. I can smell the incense already. It is a beautiful sunny day. I think I can open up some windows, get a nice cross breeze, and do my best to just take care of myself today. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for understanding. I'll keep you updated in the community tab. For the vlogs, I honestly have no idea how long it's going to be before I can get on a regular schedule, but I'm going to try and just take maybe a week or two off from the main channel before I can bring myself back. So thank you guys, and I hope you and your family are doing well and staying safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.